And in the personal story segment tonight, President Obama attracted overwhelming support among Hispanics in the last election, soundly defeating Mitt Romney, 71-27 among those voters. So this has left conservatives searching for a way forward on the issue of illegal immigration. And now some folks in the party are suggesting finding inspiration from former President George W. Bush, who recently weighed in on the debate.
America is a nation of immigrants. Immigrants have helped build the country that we have become, and immigrants can help build a dynamic tomorrow. America can be a lawful society and a welcoming society at the same time. As our nation debates the proper course of action relating to immigration, I hope we do so with a benevolent spirit and keep in mind the contribution of immigrants.
So is Bush really the figure the party wants to embrace for its future? With us now is Matt Schlapp. He's a former political director for President George H.W. Bush. And joining us from San Diego, Deroy Murdock, a Fox News contributor. Great to see both of you. Matt, let's start with you here. Is this the way forward for the Republican Party now? Look, no doubt about it, with Hispanic voters, the Republicans really took a beating. They got wailed on, right? I mean, the messaging was bad. People say Romney didn't do enough to court Hispanic voters. But is it really just illegal immigration that's the problem, or is it a larger problem?
No, it's a larger problem. Matter of fact, there's a poll that came out from Wood Ayers recently that looked at 4 battleground states. We didn't even get all the conservative Hispanics. You look at these Hispanic voters, a lot of them tend to be pro-life, they tend to be pro-traditional marriage, they're for the Bush tax cuts. A lot of them are small business people. Even those folks that agree with the Republican Party on those issues, they didn't all vote for Mitt Romney. So it's not just an issue of immigration, it's the issue of, are we connecting them with our conservative policies, which they agree with.
And Deroy, look, I think the Republicans are looking at the Bush administration and thinking, well, look, he did win 2 terms. He's a 2-term Republican president, and he's becoming more endearing, I think, to people since he's out of office. But we also have to remember that when he left office, we had lost the House, the Senate. We turned over the White House to the most left-wing person ever to go into the White House in the Oval Office. And, of course, you know, some problems on spending and growth of government. So while he did attract more Hispanic voters, there are all sorts of other issues out there as well.
Yeah, Lori, absolutely right about that. I embrace the idea of reaching out to Hispanic voters as something the GOP needs to do. It's very hard to try to get votes without asking for them, which is the minimum that a party ought to do. But we got to remember that the exit polls after the election in November, the American people, majority of American voters, blame G.W. Bush more than Obama for the country's current economic situation. And I don't think the answer to this is by re-embracing Bush and then perhaps having Jeb Bush run in 2016, putting onto the GOP ticket the brother of the man who the majority of voters think caused or is more responsible for the shape we're in. We had tremendous spending under G.W. Bush. He increased spending just a little bit less than Lyndon Baines Johnson did. He's the second biggest spender since Eisenhower, according to Chris Edwards of the Cato Institute. We had TARP, we had bailouts, we had the Medicare drug plan, an expansion of government, which we've, again, not seen since the Great Society. So I don't think re-embracing all of that and, again, becoming the party of big government conservatism is the way to get back into the good graces.
Well, I think also,
voters.
look, I have great affection for the Bush family, and I think when you think about, they spent every Christmas at Camp David. They were worried about their Secret Service and their staffers being away from their families, and I have great affection for them. I've had my policy differences with the Bushes, however, and on this issue of illegal immigration in particular, it's very, I think, attractive for people to say, okay, if we only do this, we're going to get the Latino vote. But Matt, when you think about this, and you really think about it, you start playing that game, you're always going to be outbid by Democrats. We'll say, okay, then you can bring your grandmother in.
That's right. Well,
and then you know, right, and you keep going.
Trick here.
But maybe it's a tonality issue, and President Bush did make that point.
I think, Laura, everyone thinks that if you can check this box, somehow we'll get them, right? And that's not how politics works. It's courting them every day. And I think the mere fact that we didn't even get all the conservative Hispanics we could have gotten, that's an outrage.
That's a turnout issue.
Sure it is. And are we communicating to them? I'll give you another example. Since 2006, you talked about the fact that Republicans lost the House and the Senate.
We lost 30 House seats in 2006.
Wasn't a good year.
And 6 Senate seats.
Okay, it wasn't a good year. I'll agree with that. But we also stopped communicating to Spanish language media as much as we had. That's one of the things that both governors, Bush, understood well you have to do. You have to engage these people every day. If the Republican National Committee doesn't have a surrogate on every show whenever it's wanted, to explain our conservative values, of course we're not
go
going
to
to
the
win those
neighborhoods. And Deroy, you've written about
Exactly.
this. Go to places where these voters are. Don't be afraid to
That's
enter
right.
into territory. Don't treat it as enemy territory. Treat it as Reagan would future Republican voters. Treat
That's
them that
exactly
way.
right, Laura. What Republicans ought to do is go to Hispanic neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, ask for votes. And I think one thing that does is it takes away from Democrats the race card, and it also lets nervous white voters realize this is not a racist party. There's a party that they ought to support, and I think you pick up both some minority votes and also white votes by going out and making that effort.
Mr. Murdock, Mr. Schlapp, Deroy, and, of course, Matt, great to see you. And directly